Now, I always say that the best way to get your creative juices flowing as a photographer, especially when you're dealing with a creative rut, is to set a certain technical limitation and basically get yourself to work past it. This was a very good piece of advice that was given to me by one of my mentors early on. And ever since, I've been doing this. Whenever I feel the need to get out of a creative rut, I would bring my camera, use a prime lens, stick to that focal length, and really just get into it, getting past the limitations of what that is. It actually isn't going to be about working past limitations. I don't want to see it as a limitation, but instead, it's actually doubling down on the creative intent or the creative intention. While some others can see that as a limitation because technically you can't shoot everything with a single focal length, it also is a way for you to narrow down the abundance of options because you can't shoot everything with a single focal length. So if you're shooting with a 50mm, a 35, or a 20, then you're gonna have to stick to that and basically tune out everything else. Now, honestly, personally, I've been dealing with probably the worst creative rut that I've ever dealt with in the past years. And this isn't because of any specific stimulus. I'm probably just tired. But thankfully, this opportunity to try out this camera actually came at a very handy time because it didn't just follow my format of getting out of a creative rut. It actually became quite a nice challenge. Now, what is that? Well, it's this. This is the Leica Q3 Monochrom. Yes, it's not just a fixed focal length lens. It's a fixed lens camera, meaning you can't change the lenses even if you wanted to. And the added bonus is the fact that it only shoots in monochrome, in black and white. Now, technically, it isn't that limited because it uses a 60 megapixel full frame sensor, which means that by pressing one of the buttons that you have here, you can technically zoom in by cropping, and because it's a 60 megapixel sensor, then it's not going to be very limited. So it has steps from the original 28, this is a 28mm f1.7 Sumilux, but if you press that button, it's going to crop to 35, 50, 75, and 90 millimeters. Yes, you're going to lose some pixels, but it wasn't really designed to shoot that far away, but instead it just gives you that option. And of course, if you shoot in RAW, you get to recover everything else that you technically cropped out. Now, honestly, I have so much to say about this experience, but let me give you a bit of a background. Now, here's a reality that I haven't talked about so much. The reason why I've been quite oriented with the Leica Q system for the past year is because before I tested this, actually for a while now, I've been using this. And this is actually what I would call my alter ego camera. This is the Leica Q. This is, of course, a generation older than this one. And this one, of course, isn't monochrome, so this one shoots in color. It has a slightly lower resolution sensor, but generally the feel and the whole form factor is pretty much the same. Now, why do I call this my alter ego camera? Well, because I am the kind of photographer who is used to having an interchangeable lens camera and having all the lenses that I would want. Whenever I want to turn off that side of myself and really just tap into my creative juices, then I pick this up for the reasons that I already talked about in the introduction of this video. I don't think I would ever call myself a street photographer, but I love shooting street with this camera. And perhaps that dissociation from my usual is actually one of the things that refreshes me whenever I need that kind of challenge. Now, I absolutely love this camera, but there are, of course, imperfections. One of the things that I wish this one had is a tilting screen, which of course is present in the Q3 and the Q3 Monochrome. I wish this one also focused better and faster, and that is something that I've seen in the Q3 Monochrome and even in the very few times that I've seen the Q3. I actually don't mind the around 47 megapixel resolution of the Q2, but of course I also welcome the additional few megapixels that comes with the Q3. Now, aside from that, what are the other differences? Well, the Q3, specifically the Q3 Monochrome, has a monochrome feel on the entire thing, which means that even the yellows on the lens of the Q2 is gone. It's all black and white on the lens and all the markings, and even the famous red dot you don't have on the Q3 Monochrome. The bottom layout is also different. On the Q2, you only have the directional buttons on the right. On the Q3 Monochrome and even the Q3, you have the play and the menu buttons here on the right, with no more buttons on the left side, because again, this has now become the tilt screen. Of course, higher resolution EVF, we have an additional button right here to switch from photo to video. But up top, it's the same shutter speed dial, the shutter button right here, although the difference is that this now comes with the thread for your soft shutter button. This one came with a regular button, and of course we have the same dial and the function button right here up top. Pretty much the same, just enhanced features. Of course, in addition, we have the ports here, the battery right here at the bottom, the SD card slot. And we have the 3 pins right here because this can also be charged with a dock, wherein you just place the camera on your desk. You know, just it looking cool right there while it's charging. Honestly, between the two of these, it's really those nice little extra details that really get me, especially the tilt screen, because, well, I like to shoot from the hip, and technically you have no way of seeing the screen on the Q2 if it doesn't tilt up. But the overall experience, well, again, I welcome the 60 megapixels. I have fallen in love with the 28 f1.7 Summilux. So the ones on these cameras are actually, you know, they say that our eyes as humans are at around 35 millimeters, right? But I feel like whenever I'm walking with this camera, it just matches my creative vision at 28. It's because technically you have a very immersive perspective of whatever you're shooting. And you also get right up close to whatever is your subject. Now, what I absolutely love about the Q3 Monochrome is that I feel like it's the true test of artistic intent. And in a way, it's also kind of a glimpse into how photographers were back in the film days, back when it was just black and white. Now, I'm not going to pretend I have zero experience shooting film. I'm not even going to pretend to have tried it. Zero experience shooting film. But I can imagine that given the fact that they were limited to very few shots with every roll of film, and the fact that back then they only had black and white, the intention was absolutely necessary. It was a requirement. You need to only press that button and use that shot whenever you know that you're taking actually what you need. And of course, it's going to be different for, say, photojournalists. But for people who really just wanted to use their camera to create art, you wouldn't waste a shot on anything that you didn't think will be 100% good in black and white. And personally, I believe that black and white is a very, very strong artistic weapon. But it's not, especially, of course, in the days of color, it's not something that would turn any photo or any scene into art. Personally, I like shooting black and white when the lighting creates high contrast. I like shooting black and white when there are textures to be emphasized. I like shooting black and white when there is geometry to be emphasized. And, well, technically, it is also a way to tune out whenever the colors in the scene aren't that harmonious, but that's just a secondary benefit. I think that not everything will look good in black and white, definitely. And having a camera like this will basically lessen the times that you're just holding your camera, aimlessly pointing it towards anything you think is interesting, but instead anticipating what will look good in monochrome, what will look good in black and white, what will have that added spice to whatever story you are telling. I've been carrying around the Q3 Monochrome for about 3 weeks now, and I wouldn't say that I've shot so much with it, but whenever I felt that something deserved that very dramatic and very iconic looking Leica monochrome look, then I would bring out the camera. It's not something I would shoot family gatherings with. It's not something I would go on vacation with and only have that single camera. But if I were to have it alongside, say, my Sony system or my Q2, then it's an additional weapon, basically. It's an additional artistic tool. And honestly, using it on its own might not be entirely for me, because I also love shooting with the colors of the Leica Q2. So the Q3 might be a better match for myself. But this was absolutely a welcome challenge, and it was really a good way to get out of my creative rut. And there we go. Just something different. I honestly do not need to make a review out of this. I don't want to call this a review, but let me just, well, if you've gotten this far into the video, you've already let me share my experience with such a unique camera. There we go. Let me know what you think about the photos I showed you, and let me know what you think about shooting with a camera that is exclusively in monochrome. And if you have any questions, of course, you can leave them down below in the comment section. Now, if you're new to the channel, my name is Nicco Valenzuela. I am a photographer, and I create content about things that are relevant in photography. And if you're into anything like that, then do click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. In any case, thanks for watching.